pausing is about, in our everyday life, just finding moments of pause. Now, a pause can be, a breath, where we just do that. That's a perfect pause, right? Or a pause can be you reach a red light, and instead of feeling nervous of like you're waiting to get to the green light, you just go, red light. That's a pause. The universe has just gifted me. I'm going to enjoy it.
I love that.
I'm like, I know I've had taxi drivers ring me up and say, thank you. You've changed my life.
Wow.
Because, a red light can be a gift. And it's a metaphor, of course, because everything that seems to slow us down, we kind of take as a negative often.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, wow, that's the universe saying, take a pause. Because you know what? In pauses, transformation happens. That's what pivot means. The pivot, if in a day you manage to have 20 pauses, then in one of those pauses, a pivot might happen. Pivots you can't predict. A pivot is when we see something about our nature that we weren't seeing otherwise. And you can only see that in a pause. If you're too busy spinning and your day is just full of dealing with lists and you get to the end of it and you've had no pauses, there's no transformation in that day, until you stop. So if you train yourself to harvest pauses in your day of different lengths, and you soon begin to realize that they're very pleasant. And actually begin to rely on them and look forward to them. And pausing doesn't mean you have to stop. You can be pausing, but also in movement.
Right. You can find the stillness in exercise or whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can find it everywhere. But the more you kind of take those pauses, the more you create the space to see something about your own nature. Maybe you begin to undermine your anxiety. You begin to change a pattern that's an addiction. Something that's driving you. You might be addicted to work, for example. You just work, spin, phone call, email, all of that. And these pauses just give you like moments of grace where you're like, what the hell am I doing? And if you didn't have that pause, you wouldn't ask that question. I'm tired. I'm not enjoying this. I need to change this.
Yeah.
That can be a pivot, the beginning of a pivot. I need to change this. This is not working for me. Look at me, I'm out of breath. And you don't even have to do a technique. I mean, you can. There's lots of techniques you can do. You can stretch, you can do yoga, you can do a meditation, you can do a chant, you can do anything. But a pause is a pause where you create a gap. And in those gaps, magic happens. So you got to make the gaps. And it's a discipline. But if you do it repeatedly, over a period of days and weeks and months, your whole life changes because you start having these pivotal experiences, breakthroughs, where transformation happens in you. And the dismantling of the shadow is what's happening. But it's happening only because you're creating pauses. So actually, you don't need anything else. You only need to create pauses. That's it. You don't need to do any technique in them. You just... that's the simplest truth I can give. There are many people who have come before me who've given the same truth.
Yeah.
It changes the structure of our day. And there's magic in it. Like a day filled with pauses is a day with more time in it. Sounds weird because you're stopping doing stuff more, but actually you're pumping time into that day. So suddenly you've got more room in the day to breathe. So you probably have less breaths in that day because you're pausing. And if you have less breaths, you're going to live longer. You're going to be healthier.
Everything's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pauses is all about breathing, but you don't even have to do a breath technique. You only have to pause.
Right.
And it's a discipline. And then the final stage is merge. And merge is what happens when several pivoting experiences have taken place. So every time you experience one of those breakthroughs in your shadow pattern and it transforms into that gift, then it finally, when the siddhi part, when it kind of finds its final flourishing, final let go of the pattern from your whole being, from your DNA that I described earlier, you experience merging. And merging is when you begin to merge with the field a little a little bit more of you merges with the field. The field is made of light. The field is wisdom. The field is intelligence. The field is love. The field is the divine, whatever you want to call it. But there's more of you that's let go. So there's more of you that's merged. And merging doesn't mean you lose yourself, but it means you surrender yourself into the whole.